let's talk about Zcash and Hzen. So you all remember when Zcash was around $2, $3, right? So when Zcash was around $2 or $3, then the um, the market cap for Zcash, or the AUM for Zcash, was about $16.3 million. And Zcash went all the way up to, let's say, I think 50 something dollars, right? Or maybe about $50. And then I was checking Zcash recently, and it went down to $33.81. So let's just take this rough number of $33.81. And if let's say if Zcash reached all the way up to, let's say, like $66, right? Then what you want to do is you want to multiply the AUM 163 times by 2, which would mean it's roughly about $320 million, right? So at one point, Zcash total money, right? Not necessarily AUM, but the total money that it had was like 320 million. Actually, I shouldn't say AUM, but I believe it was market cap. The market cap money, right? So market cap money, there was $163 million in there when the price was at $33.81. So let's just say if Zcash was 50 something, I'm at $66, right? Then here, let me clarify. So if Zcash was at, let's say, about $67, right? Because I just multiplied 33.81 times by 2, you get approximately $67. So if I multiply the 33.81, then I'll just multiply the 163 times by 2, right? And I will get a total of like 326 million. So at one point, Zcash, the investors into Zcash had approximately $300 million, or close to $300 million into Zcash, because they're doing rotation. They're going from one fund to another because they were seeing how much Zen, they were seeing how much not Zen, but Zec, right? The Zcash was going up, so they all bought into Zcash to pump it up. So they had about 300 million worth of, market cap money. So imagine if that 326 million, because it started at about 16, right, to 300 and something million dollars. That means they probably pumped in a good almost, let's say, $280 million. So let's say there was about $280 million flowing from investors. So let's say if investors pull completely out of Zcash and it goes down to like $2, then you know that there's going to be like $280 million worth of free money floating around, okay? And now they're probably going to do rotation. And let's say if you look at Hzen, right? And if they choose to pump up Hzen with the $280 million, they could pump in more. But I'm just saying, as an example, Hzen last week, I remember the price share was about 90 cents or so, right? That was the market price. And when I looked at the NAV price, it was 75 cents. So I tried to figure out how many shares it had. So I took the AUM, which was like $8.61 million, and I divided by 0.75, because that was the per share, right? 75 cents. So what I had was 11,480,000 shares. And that current market price was 90 cents. So I took it and I multiplied it by the 11.48 million shares, and I had about, a little over $10 million in market price, right? So the market price was almost $2 million higher than the AUM. That means they were actually in the premium. So I would say the premium was approximately 20% higher than the NAV price, right? So it wasn't for sale. It was like higher. So imagine if investors pumped in the 280 million into Hzen, right? So just imagine if 10 million turned into 280 million, that's over 20 times. That's over 20x, right? So that's over 20x. Because obviously 20 times 10 million is 200 million. So if Hzen, right, market price was 90 cents at $10 million, then if $10 million went to over 20 times, right, then the market cap would be about $200 million, right? So if the market cap was $200 million, that means it went up 20 times. So I can multiply the 20 times, right, times by 0.90 cents. So what would the price of Hzen be? It'll be $18. So I'm just saying, hypothetically, if all investors all at one time rolled, like they took money out of Zcash and rolled it into Hzen, then Hzen would go from 90 cents all the way up to $18. And currently, right now, right, I don't know what the AUM is, but I know that the price of Hzen is about $1.50. So if Hzen is at $1.50, let's try to figure out what the current market cap is, right? The total market cap. Then we multiply it by the 11.48. So we multiply it by 11.48 because that's the 11 million shares, right? Well, it's not figuring out for me, but just let's round it off by saying multiplying by 11, right? So 11 million shares times by 150, I'll just say 11 million shares times by 150, then it should be 11 million plus 5.5. That means like let me see. 11 million times by 1.5, it should be approximately like 16.5. It should be $16.5 million. That means from last week, right, to this week, Hzen went from 90 cents to 150. That means it had an increase of like over 50%. So the market cap is $16.5 million. That means investors were pumping Hzen. It was at about $10 million last week. Sorry. So now it's worth $16.5 million, around $17 million. That means they're probably rotating some of the money from Zcash. Because remember, Zcash's market cap was once around 50 something dollars, right? And now it's back to $30. That means investors must have pulled out approximately, I would say, $100 million, and they probably used part of that money to pump into Hzen because they probably saw Zen coin, Horizon. They probably saw Horizon had that little pump. So now they're all trying to create FOMO, just like what they did with Zcash. That's why I'm saying, Hzen might be, this is not financial advice, but Hzen might be the next pumper. It could also mean any other grayscale can be pumpers as well too. But I'm just making this video so you guys can kind of keep an eye on Hzen, and hopefully eventually LTCN and BCHG will follow up. So this is why like we don't know how much money people are gonna pump into each of these grayscales, but we know that they do have money and they're gonna rotate. So that's why we have to be careful and take advantage of every opportunity. And with this said, I just want to make a little video for Zcash, and how it's relative to Hzen and how much money there is floating around. So I know that there's a profit of like $100 million from investors that they took out from Zcash, and it's just sitting there, and maybe they're pumping it into certain stocks. Which stocks? Then I don't know. But yeah, there's money out there, and I think once BTC goes up over 100K again, then everything's going to start pumping, and hopefully BCHG and LTCN is going to pump. So with the next video, I'm probably going to talk about like LTCN and BCHG and how much money it needs to pump up to certain prices. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe and share it if you like. And hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment. And if it does, please let me know whether you think it makes sense or not.